to Gaming Discourse. I am Tyler Frater alongside Richard D. the Cruz.
Hello.
And Chief Engineer, Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater.
Good evening.
It is Monday, July 29th, 2024. Go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/gaming discourse, patreon.com/the gaming discourse. You can support us for $247, $10. Get your name in the video credits, early access to our videos, access to our Discord server, and more. There's a new video up. Splinter Cell Conviction, part 3 of my series, my retrospective series on Splinter Cell. Go check it out. All about Splinter Cell Conviction. I remember liking Splinter Cell Conviction when I played it for the first time a long time ago.
Yeah.
And now that I played it, 13 years later, I like it a lot less. It did not, I don't know. Obviously, I'll play Blacklist, and I'll do Blacklist sometime in the future, but I know Blacklist is a little more robust. But looking back on Conviction, I think Conviction may be the weakest of all the Splinter Cells, and probably my least favorite, for a number of reasons. Sam comes across cruel, closer to like, I don't know, a malicious villain in some aspects. I think it's just a poorly written game, and it's just not very good. And a lot of the stuff that it sets up, and I don't know how much you guys remember from Splinter Cell Conviction, or if you ever played Splinter Cell Conviction, but Conviction sets up its own version of the Patriots, where it's called Megiddo. They call it Megiddo in Splinter Cell Conviction. There's this like shadowy organization controlling American politics, but that gets dropped in Splinter Cell Blacklist, and it does not return. So,
Nice.
So Conviction is one of those things where they tried to do a lot. They set a lot up. I think they wanted to do like a Naughty Dog style adventure in some parts, and it just didn't come together, and I don't think it's very good, and I think it's mostly forgettable. And it's too bad that it's Michael Ironside's final full game as Sam Fisher, because I think his performance has now been so long since people, I don't know, have played an entire game of Sam with Michael Ironside there. It's almost, I don't know, I think sometimes maybe it's weird to think Michael Ironside was such an established voice in games. Like every few years there was a new Splinter Cell, new Ironside, and his performance was really good as Sam. And so it's kind of strange to think about, even in the short span of time games have been around, and in the short span of time that we can think about actors and memorable performances, Michael Ironside is this weird one where it happened a long time ago and was really memorable.
Right.
If he was doing it today, if Chaos Theory were today, he'd be nominated Game Awards Best Performance, I think. His performances are not celebrity does a voice type of thing. Like
they're subtle and nuanced.
He's really good. Yeah. So I don't know. I think he's in his like late 70s now and stuff. I don't know. I know they're working on the remake. Ubisoft is. I don't know if Ironside would want to come back for that or what that would entail. I mean, maybe if they signed if they gave him a gigantic check, you would want to put in the effort. But I know Michael Ironside has like survived cancer and has gone through all kinds of stuff, and he's obviously super old now. So I don't know if he'd be interested in any of that. But when you go back and you play those games, even in Conviction, which is not very good, Ironside's voice performance is excellent, and some of the lines and some of the way he delivers things. And it's like, damn, if that were today, people would be talking about it, I think, kind of like we talk about Roger Clark, or we're going to talk about everybody in Baldur's Gate 3, like Neil Newbon and Samantha Bayart and whatnot. So anyway, go check out Conviction. It's called Who is Sam Fisher? Splinter Cell Retrospective, Part 3 on Conviction.
Let me watch it right now.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll take a 20-minute interim. And then Part 4, Blacklist, will be sometime in the future. I don't have it scheduled right now. Working on other big projects. Follow us on Patreon to learn more. Okay, we have lots of news. We were off last week, so we're going to be playing, I hope we were playing games. But Connor, you said you hadn't really been playing much.
Yeah, I haven't been able to do much recently.
Is there anything you want to discuss? Even outside games? Just kidding.
Outside games. So let's get into politics real quick.
Yeah, that's a hot topic.
I'm good. You can continue without me.
Richard.
Hey, I've been burning the midnight oil with Baldur's Gate.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
Baldur's
good.
Gate. So I have a lot more to talk about. I can finish Act 1 if I choose. But I'm choosing not to because I have more shit to do. When you look at the map and it's like there's black splotches everywhere, I'm kind of like, all right, well, I'll go visit those. I'm so happy the way that my playthrough is turning out. I decided to speak with Withers and change my class.
Nice.
Because I wasn't feeling rogue. I wasn't feeling... And I think part of the problem is because how I've been playing games the last, decade, 15 plus years. A lot of games are force-fed to you, just how to play them, how to do things. And D&D Baldur's Gate is not, in the sense that I think they expect whoever is playing this game already understands how Dungeons and Dragons works. And so they expect you that if I have Speak with the Dead, I'm going to actively have it on my mind to use it anytime I can. So if I go up to a character who's dead and I don't have that Speak with the Dead, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to think about it.
Yeah. Because
I have had a couple of, how come it hasn't asked me to use Speak with the Dead yet? It's because, no, you have to do it on your own. You can't, it's an action you have to take. So I'm loving having to force my brain to think in other ways. But so that ties into the rogue. I wasn't playing rogue properly. And so that's why I decided to change it. So I'm a sorcerer now, which I'm enjoying very much. And I'm enjoying my race as well, because I don't know if this happens with anybody else, but because I was a drow, thank goodness I was able to just walk into the goblin camp and they're just like, what the hell? All right, wait, go ahead, go on. And, and it's like, oh, okay, nice. This is great. Of course, I had to, kill a lot of them at the end, but that was very fun. In doing so, I also I encountered him the first time, Volo. And then, of course, I saved him because I want to save people. And I did not look him up or anything. And I thank God I didn't, because up until the more you play through Act 1, you encounter so many people, at least 4 or 5 people who are just like, wow, you got a worm in your brain? I know how to take care of that. And it's like, well, no, because I don't just want to. And by this point, meeting Volo, there was 3 people who already asked me. So when Volo was like, yeah, I know how to do that, I was like, oh, what the hell? I'll just do it. I'll just do it. And I did it. And I was like, God damn it. My eye, I hope I don't get an eye. Well, I was like, oh, if I get an eye patch, I'm fine with it. But he's just like, yeah, this is way better than anything. He pops it in and I'm like, oh shit. Oh, yes, wow. I'm so happy I did that.
Yeah.
Because that was really awesome.
And that will come in use.
I've heard.
Yes. It's one of those things. And Baldur's Gate 3 does not always do that. Sometimes it's like, this is an obviously bad thing to do, and you do it, and it's like, okay, now you're dead. So it likes to vary up. It's always keeping you on your toes. You never know if you're going to open a door and there's going to be treasure or a dragon on the other side,
or 2 creatures getting it on. So there's that, which I'm also half bummed and half elated that amounted to nothing. That's just a thing. It's like, oh, great, cool. It's a little nerve-wracking that every single decision you have to make feels like it's an end of the world decision as well. Because, man, I've had to make a lot of choices that I'm unsure of if it would be okay or not. I think I got everybody. I screwed up with Minthara, though.
Okay.
I didn't know Minthara was the one that you can recruit. I thought it was somebody else. So I screwed that one up. But I did grab Karlach, who was awesome. I didn't expect Karlach to be a golden retriever barbarian girl. I'm like, this is very fun. Will seems cool. I think I have It's me. Lae'zel, Shadowheart, and Karlach on the team right now. I beat the Hag.
Nice.
I went down there, I beat the Hag. And that was an interesting thing, too, because I totally get both sides when you save the girl. You know, she's super pissed at you. And it's like, oh, sorry, like, that was the wrong choice. You'll find out later. But I don't know where. I think I'm going to go to, like, the southeast of the map, because just past the Mind Flayer ship, because I don't think I really explored that area. But I don't know much more I have to find around there.
Yeah, I mean, there's the major stuff, and then there's smaller things. Have you encountered the island with a bunch of mud mephits on it? Did we talk about this?
Yeah, because I had to do the side quest for Kaga to save Kaga. Yeah, and that's where you encounter them, which was very neat because I had Gale at the time, but like when a lot of them gather up on you, I used the Thunder Force push thing, and it just like blah 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 blah, and I'm like, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, romancing Shadowheart, I think, just because it's easy. Not like it's easy with everybody, but
They're all
it
a
was
bunch of sluts.
yeah, right. Yeah, it's the end of the world decisions or very
the main
horny.
character.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know what to make of. They keep feeding. They keep giving you that carrot of like, oh, if you keep powering up this Mind Flayer, like there's some pretty cool stuff there.
Yeah, and you'll see that it's literally the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
You know, there are Boromirs all over the place.
Right.
What if you use the tadpole? And you know, and if you talk to your camp members, there's differing levels of skepticism.
Yeah.
Gale's not an evil character, but even Gale's like, you know, maybe we use it. Where Lae'zel is like, she'd rather die.
Yeah,
she'll kill you and then kill herself before she, you know, uses the tadpole. Yeah. Yeah,
and that's great. I'm super astonished that the devil is in the game.
So awesome.
Countered the devil, and it's like, okay.
I can't.
Hey, I can get that out of your head. And I'm like, no, stop. I'm trying to take care of this goblin camp. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
I want to use talk to animals more, and I think eventually I'll do another playthrough where I can just speak with animals all the time, because it was fun sicking the spiders onto the goblins.
Nice.
I did do that. Of course, they die very quickly, unfortunately. And of course, there's like the squirrel that you encounter in the grove, which I succeeded without talking to him. I just kind of did persuasion or something. I don't know.
That was the same thing in my first playthrough. Those spiders that are captured in the goblin camp, I didn't have speak with animals. So the role for me was animal handling, and it described me as mimicking spider fangs like with my hands or something like that, and it clicked. I rolled high enough, so I made friends with giant spiders just through mimicking their movements or whatever, which is a total tabletop D&D type of thing. You know, it's like, okay, how do you do it? And the player describes it, and you roll high enough, and you're like, okay, you're friends with spiders now.
Right.
You know, and that's about. There's going to be all kinds of stuff like that.
Yes.
Act 1 is it really is. You're right now. It sounds like if you defeated the Goblin Camp, you are flying away from the Death Star right now, and it just exploded.
Yeah.
So you're at that part in the Star Wars original trilogy.
I did encounter the Gith at the bridge, and I had to keep doing it because I kept just trying different things.
And Gith are ridiculously difficult. They're very powerful.
Very much so. And so I did get to the point where I just, all right, let's play along. And so, and then I encountered hey, you're about to leave. And I was like, no, all right, we'll just brush up some things. I don't have like a bunch of crazy good like gear, but I understand that'll come later. The only thing I have is a really cool fire quarterstaff.
Nice.
That I gave to my main character. But other than that, the one guy that you fight with Karlach's mission, that dude kicked my ass a couple times.
The paladins.
The paladins. Yeah, because their holy magic or whatever just. Ugh. It's like, you're attacking 3 times, Jesus Christ!
And if you talk with them, they usually roll higher initiatives than you do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you get close to them, then the fight starts, and then they go first.
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of, it's almost like you walk into their trap. Almost.
Yeah. And I've had situations where after you leave that area and you go a little bit north, you encounter the group of guys that are being attacked by were they goblins? I don't think they're goblins because they're
The
bigger.
gnolls?
They're the gnolls, yes, gnolls. And then I saved them, and then I talked to the guys, and they're like, "Yeah, we're delivering this crazy thing," and I'm like, "Shit, do I want that? What is it?" And then I have it, and I'm like, "Well, what do I do with this?"
I think Connor and I know what's in there.
Oh yeah, right. I don't want to look it up yet until it like comes into play. But is that where you always meet Will?
At the Druid Grove.
Yeah.
Yes. That's where.
Or no, I know you meet him because he's fighting with you outside. But I took a long rest in that cave where I killed those guys, and he came out of a portal there with me.
Oh, what?
Yeah, Will came out of a portal there, and he was like, "I found you," like he was hunting Karlach or whatever.
Oh,
and
so you found Karlach before you found Will?
Yeah.
Oh, so you got the scene where he appears at camp then?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
Sorry.
okay. No, that's
I
fine.
should have been a little more
yeah, because Will first appears. I don't know if there's a way to see Will until the Druid Grove, the fight at the gate.
Right, yes.
But if you don't talk with him, he doesn't join your camp.
Right.
So you can thanks Will, and you run the other direction, and then go get Karlach, and then he appears at that night, and then you can have him join your camp.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's how it happened to me, and I debated on like once again starting again at some point and trying to see if I could get like other characters first before I go to the Grove, because you're curious about interactions or curious if anything. I'm not certain substantially different will happen, but just finding those other entertaining interactions would be worth it.
A small spoiler here. So I was fighting my second fight with the hag.
Okay.
I don't know. There's a lot of different ways the fight can go because the girl Marina is in a cage, and the hag's like, whatever, fuck it. And she decides she's just going to drop Marina.
Yeah.
So you have to like save her and fight the hag and all that. So if you save Marina before the fight ends, then the hag she splits into her multiple mirror things, but she makes herself look like Marina.
Oh.
So you don't know who the real Marina is or who the hag is.
Oh, wow.
And I was really proud of myself because the way I did this is the first thing I did was I cast ice. So, and because there was two left, and they were writing two Marinas. One of them was the hag. One of them was Marina. It was literally the "what I ate for breakfast yesterday" type of scenario.
Sure.
So I cast ice, and I had them both slip and fall, and I thought maybe falling would trigger the hag to reappear.
Oh yeah.
And it didn't. So they were just both slipped on the ground. So I was like, okay, how do I do this? So I was looking through my list. I was looking through like all my spells. I was like, do I have a dispel? Is this a curse? It's not a curse. It's like, what do I have? And then I had Gale with me or was it Gale? I don't remember. I had Magic Missile, either through Gale or a scroll.
Sure,
I was like, Magic Missile only does 2 damage.
Yes.
And Marina has 8 health. So I was like, what I can do is I can cast 1 bolt to each. It's like, I'm sorry, Marina, I'm going to punch you in the face, but you're going to survive. And so it's like, I'll cast 1 to each, do damage to both, and maybe that'll knock the hag back into her hag form. And I did that, and it worked. And I was like, yes. I was so proud of myself. And that's what...
It's better than falling into a pit.
Yes.
After, burning to death.
Yeah, definitely. But I did feel a little bad for shooting Marina in the face.
I feel doubly bad for her because I screwed up with her brothers too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, like, well, the first time I encountered the hag when I couldn't beat her, they died because they just ran into the traps.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, well, sure. And then the second time they died because when they were talking to the hag, I was just like, yeah, you're the hag. Like, shut up, get out of here. And she's like, yeah, fuck it. She kills both of them and leaves them. Like, God damn it. So I was like, whatever. I didn't care too much. So I could be evil sometimes.
Sure.
But yeah, no, such a blast, and
I'm glad you're having fun.
Yeah, I just need to put aside more time to play it, which might be tonight, might be tomorrow.
And everything's working well with the Steam Deck?
I've been playing on my PC, actually.
Oh, okay.
Since I'm at home in front of my computer, I'll just play it on my PC, you know.
Yeah.
I guess the idea was to for the Steam Deck, when my wife is home, she could play it on the Steam Deck, or I could play it, you know, whenever. But she's gone, and she's gonna be gone for 2 weeks now. So,
wow. Right.
And I was like, "Hey, you should take the Steam Deck so you should play." She's like, "No." And I was like, "All right, well, all right." She left it, and I'm like, "All right, well." So I'm playing on PC. It's running well. Surprisingly, I got a 1080, so
okay, yeah,
it's a fairly old GPU, but it's running great so far.
Good to hear. Okay, so is there anything else?
No.
So I have been playing the absolute crap out of College Football 25, and I have a lot to say. I think I might do a review. I'm not sure. I saw Angry Joe did a review, and he was wearing a big Texas chain. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm gonna have to review this, and I'm gonna have to throw down, even though he's never heard of me. I'm gonna have to throw down.
You gotta punch up, buddy.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to punch up. Angry Joe, I'm canceling you, you Texas bandwagoner. You've never been a Texas fan. No. So I think it's good, but there are a lot of things that I feel like they did sort of the minimum in a way. A lot of the modes are there. Your Dynasty mode, your Road to Glory mode, where you play as one player, not just the entire team. You can go into Dynasty and just play through a season rather than managing an entire program and recruiting players and stuff like that. So I don't know. The movement, I know Madden a couple of years ago got its new movement style or whatever, where things are really loose and there's lots of physics based interactions and stuff like that. I don't know if you've
seen to say it's bad.
Yeah, it's not always great, and it looks ridiculous sometimes because players go into ragdoll animations. And so sometimes there are really lifelike animations.
Okay.
And other times there are completely unrealistic animations.
Do you think that might be because I know just like all games that even have some sort of root in realism, they kept trying to make it realistic. And then at a certain point they were like, well, let's try to make it go back to arcadey stuff, you know?
It's not arcadey.
And then they didn't. No, it's not?
It's not in the sense that it's arcadey. No. It's in the sense that I think and I'm sure there's been discussions about this, and I think it's probably I haven't played a Madden since 17. It's been a long time, or purchased one and bought it a lot since Madden 17. So that new movement style I think is relatively new, and yeah, it just doesn't always look good, and it looks kind of just silly a lot. Which is weird to contrast it with how good some of the visuals look, because the visuals are fine and they're great. It's in the Frostbite engine, which I think is interesting.
Oh, wow.
Frostbite was never made for RPGs. It was never made for sports games. But here we are playing a sports game in Frostbite. And maybe it was with that. Maybe once they moved over to Frostbite, that was when the new movement style kicked in. I don't know. But yeah, so what have I been doing? So I started a Dynasty. I started as Central Michigan, because the fun thing in college football is you start as a team, a school they're in a group of 5. So in major college football, there's 2 conferences right now. You have the Power 5 and you have the group of 5. So the Power 5 are the ones that you've probably heard of. The SEC, it's where Alabama plays. The Big 12 is where Oklahoma used to play. The Pac-12 only has 2 teams in it now. But before this year, it had Arizona State, USC, Washington. The Big 10 is Michigan, Ohio State. So they're kind of similar zones. The ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, that's Clemson, Florida State. So those were your major conferences. And then you have the group of 5 power. So the group of 5 are smaller schools. They are not usually as good or as talented as the Power 5, but the group of 5 schools can make it into the college football playoff. It's not like the FCS football championship series, or I don't know. Is it the football champ? I don't know what the FCS stands for now that I think about it. Or Division II college football, where even if you will never play Alabama as a Division II school because that's a massive step down.
Okay.
So It's Division 3 is what that division is known as, the top division, right? So anyway,
FCS is Football Championship Subdivision.
Subdivision. Okay, thank you. So a school in the FCS will never play. You can play Alabama as an FCS school, but you're not going to make it to the college football playoff. Your playoff is a separate playoff kind of a thing. Right. Because there's tons of college football out there, so there's tons of levels and whatnot.
I'd assume it's similar in a sense to like weight classes.
It's similar, yeah. Yes, because you're getting higher. Recruits. I would say maybe the closest comparison is something like professional soccer, European soccer.
Okay.
Because you have a bunch of different leagues,
different clubs,
regulation and stuff like that. If a school gets big enough, they could eventually get bumped up. I think Appalachian State at one point was an FCS school. This may be wrong. But now they are FPS. They're an FBS school. So now they are in a group of 5 school. Anyway, so in my division, I played as Central Michigan, which is a group of 5 school in the MAC conference, the Mid-American Conference. So not known for being very good at football. They're usually unranked. And so the fun of Dynasty mode is you recruit players, you build your program, you can customize your schedule, and then you want to build your program into turning, one of these smaller schools into like a national powerhouse type of thing.
Yeah.
And a bunch of people, that's like one of historically in Dynasty mode, that's one of the fun things to do. Because part of the challenge is you could start as Oklahoma or Georgia or Alabama, what have you. But then you're already a high-ranked school. You're already 4 or 5-star school. You're already getting a bunch of new recruits that are heavily ranked. So you don't have to manage as much to eventually like succeed at the highest level. Where if you play as one of the smaller schools, you have to eventually recruit better players, so it's more of like a grassroots thing where you build it and manage it all the way up until you're a super powerful school or whatever. So yeah, I did that with Central Michigan. I just finished my first season. First season went pretty well. So I gave myself a little leaning room, whatever, because I'm still learning the game and I'm still learning some of the controls. And so I was like, what I did was because you can create custom schedules. So I was like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start the season off by playing Georgia, the number 1 ranked team in the country, at Georgia. I'm going to go into their home stadium and I'm going to beat them.
I'm going to bully them.
And so I picked a bunch of, for my custom schedule, I picked Georgia, Alabama, Texas, and then later on Notre Dame. And I was on the road. So I was like, I'm going to walk into all these highly ranked schools and I'm going to shock the nation and beat all these teams, right? And that was really difficult because Central Michigan with not having highly ranked players and stuff like that, you really have to play like a perfect game or get lucky. And I was playing on varsity, which is like the normal difficulty, to beat some of those teams. So yeah, I beat Georgia, and then so I ended up beating all these teams. Alabama, I gave myself some leaning room, like I said. I like tried 5 times to beat Alabama. It was always like a close game, and I'd always lose by like 7 points or something. So I was like, no, I'm gonna keep playing until I win. And I eventually won like 13-7 or something like that. It's a ridiculous like low scoring game. But after that, I was like, okay, so I've shocked the nation. I've gone undefeated through this gauntlet, this ridiculous schedule, and now I was like, okay, now I have to just be good at the game. If I lose, I lose, whatever. So, and it's through the MAC. So through my conference, the MAC. So the MAC is nowhere near as difficult as the rest of those teams because it's a group of 5 schools. So they're not powerful. They're not, heavily recruited or whatever. So I went undefeated in the regular season, and then I got to the MAC championship game, which is the conference championship game, right? All right. So through the season, I did not get ranked until I was like 6-0 and I was still unranked, right?
Okay.
Which means unranked in college football, there's a couple different rankings, but usually the AP, the media rankings, the top 25, that's what's considered ranked until the College Football Playoff Committee does their ranking. Once they do their ranking, because that ranking determines who goes to the College Football Playoff, at that point, everybody, the ranking that matters is the college football playoff rating. Is their rating, right?
The official.
The official one. So I got up to like week, I don't know, 8, and I was undefeated, and I finally got ranked. I was like, hell yeah, I'm 17 in the nation or whatever, right? So anyway, I went undefeated. I made it all the way to the second ranked team. I got ranked 2 in the entire country, right?
Wow.
I was the number 1, 2 team in
Congrats.
the nation, right? So I was like, hell yeah. And I lost the MAC championship game. I rolled the dice. I was I was a gambling head coach. I went for it on 4th down all the time. I high risk passes. I played for keeps, and Toledo beat me in the MAC championship game. So I had 1 loss. It was the conference championship game. I dropped from number 2 in the nation. 12 teams get into the college football playoff, right?
Right.
I was number 2, and I lost, and I dropped to number 13, and I missed the college football playoff
From that game.
From that game, and I missed the college football playoff by 1 spot. Now, I don't know. There are certain rules to the college football playoff. Like, I think it's like the winners. I want to say like the top 4 winners of 4 of the 5 Power 5 conferences get in automatically, and then everybody else is determined by a rank. Now, I lost my conference championship game, so I don't know if there's a rule. And the team that got in ahead of me, Jacksonville State, another group of 5 team, they won their conference, but I had a better schedule.
Okay.
But because they were conference champions, they may have gotten in over me because of a rule somewhere in how the college football playoff works. Now, if that scenario were to actually happen, there would be riots because that's bullshit. Because I beat Alabama at Alabama, I beat Georgia at Georgia, I beat Texas at Texas, and I beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame. I'm into the college football playoff if I lose to Toledo.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I got dropped to 13, and I was like, damn it. And I played Appalachian State in the Myrtle Beach Bowl, and I beat the shit out of them.
Myrtle Beach?
Yep, Myrtle Beach Bowl. And I beat them, and I was really disappointed, and I was like, oh, well, okay. I can go into next year, and I think going into next year, I'm ranked like 17th or something like that, preseason rankings. But yeah, so I was having a lot of fun with that. I built my own offense because you can build custom playbooks. I'm not a heavily defensive player. I wasn't in real life either. I was an offensive player, so I understand offense more intimately. So I built my own offense to sort of jive with how I would run an offense kind of in real life, even though I don't really have enough knowledge to do that. But I led the league, and I think if I didn't lead the nation in rushing, I was top 5 definitely. So I'm really proud of myself for having a good running game. Not that anyone matters. Not that anyone cares, I mean. But, so yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. There's a couple different throw styles in the game. There's one where you just hold the button down, and the quarterback throws the ball. And depending on how long you hold it, it's either the quarterback throws it like a lob, or he throws it really quickly. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of been something in Madden and football games for a long time. There's a new throw style that I don't know. It may have been in Madden. I haven't played a recent Madden, but it's really interesting because what happens is once you hit the button to throw to a receiver, you then literally have a split second to place the ball somewhere within the vicinity
of the runner.
Of the receiver, right? Yeah. So you can kind of throw it behind. So let's say there's a receiver running laterally across your face, right? Or perpendicular across your face. And let's say a defender is just behind them. So if you throw it straight at the defender, or straight at the receiver, the defender can jump the route and maybe interception. Yeah. So you can kind of throw it, you can lead your receiver and put it out in front of him so that the defender can make a play on the ball.
Right.
And you have to, it's a really quick movement with the stick to do something like that. Same thing with like if you have a receiver running downfield. Let's say you have a receiver running downfield and there's a safety over the top who's got the top covered. And you're going to lob it downfield, where you don't want to lob it downfield because that safety is there. So what you want to do is when you hit the button to throw to him, you pull the stick down and you can kind of underthrow the receiver to make the receiver stop and come back to it.
Okay.
And that takes that safety out of the play because now the ball's being thrown underneath him. Right. I love that shit a ridiculous amount. I'm not super good at it. Like, I've played an entire season. I didn't do a lot of downfield throwing. It was a lot of...
Succeeding in it, though, is probably exhilarating.
Yes, because there are things you can do where if you position the ball correctly, you can open the receivers up in a way that I've never been able to do in a football game. At least I don't, as far as I know. Like, as an example, there's a route in one of the plays that I run a lot where my outside most receiver runs I forget what it's called. Not a veer, but he runs an in route toward the center, right? And it's angled outward. So he's going to start at the line of scrimmage. He's going to run diagonally. He's going to catch the ball at about 6 yards downfield, right?
Right.
He runs and he turns and stops towards the quarterback. So he, at the end of his route, he stops. Now, if you throw the ball to that receiver's left and you time it just correctly, that receiver will spin, catch the ball, and won't stop moving. So what that means is instead of having the receiver stop, catch, and then you have to accelerate, giving the defense like a second or two to tackle him, you can throw to that receiver as he's spinning, catch him as he's spinning, and he doesn't have to accelerate again. He's already running. And I have scored touchdowns because I caught that route at the precise perfect moment where that receiver did not have to slow down.
Right.
And so the defenders couldn't catch up with him because he was in full motion. So it's like when you're able to do things like that, it's awesome. But it is difficult to figure out. I threw a lot of interceptions because I had trouble figuring out how to lob the ball. So I threw a lot of picks because it was like, oh, that receiver's wide open. And then I accidentally threw too hard and some douchebag linebacker was like, I'll take that. Yep. Son of a bitch. You. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, I'm having fun with that. As far, but like, I'm having fun with it. As far as the disappointments go, you can't create your own prospect, which I'm a little disappointed by. In the old college football games, you could create your own prospect, and then they would go into the recruiting pool, and you have to recruit them, and another team might get them. You might get them. There was an exploit where you could create a punter. You can make his kicking skills really bad, and so let's say make all his throwing skills really good. Yeah. No one would recruit him but you, and then when he got on your team...
Oh, yeah, that's right. You would change him to
you'd be like, hey, why'd you go try out quarterback? Right. Oh, what do you know? You're Joe Montana. So it's like, you do something like that. But you can't do that in Dynasty mode, which I'm really disappointed by. It's something that you could exploit, but I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, if you choose to exploit it, whatever. So I'm a little disappointed by that. You can create your own teams... but you have to do it online, and that's fun. That's fun. I wish you could do it on the console itself. But yeah, anyway. And then there's like a couple other modes. Like I said, there's a Road to Glory mode where you can play as a specific player. And I don't know how well that mode works. You can play as a linebacker, but... playing as a linebacker isn't fun because there aren't any good camera angles. So, like, you know the standard Madden camera angle behind the quarterback,
yep,
up 10 yards, whatever, or up in the sky. When you play as a linebacker, you get that camera angle. And that's difficult because if you have zone coverage, that means you have to see the top of the screen because your linebacker is at the top of the screen. But that also means you have to somehow watch the line of scrimmage because you don't know if the quarterback is handing the ball off. You don't know if the quarterback is throwing it. Now, from a real life linebacker's perspective, you only see with your eyes. So you're watching the quarterback and you kind of have to use your peripheral vision and keep your head on a swivel to watch your zone if you're in zone coverage, right? But that camera angle is awkward enough where you have to sort of watch two places on the screen, and I just don't think it works. So I don't think it plays really well. There is a way to change that where you get it almost like a third person camera angle behind the linebacker.
Okay.
But that camera angle is too tight. So now you can't see much at all as his peripheral vision.
Right, the peripheral. Right.
You can only see ahead of him. So it's like there's no medium. And that disappoints me because it seems like...
Is there an option to change the field of view?
I don't know. There might be. Maybe I should try that. But that disappoints...
What you do, Tyler? is you lay on your side so that one eye can watch the top of the field and one eye can watch the bottom of the field.
There you go.
Brilliant. I put a cardboard box in, like a piece of cardboard
Exactly.
in the middle of my head. Yeah.
So you get it.
No. What was I gonna say? So it's like that has rendered playing as a linebacker kind of not fun because the camera just doesn't work, and that feels, I don't know. There were similar problems in old college football games. So here we are, a decade later, and it's like there has to be solutions to these problems. These camera angle issues.
Yeah.
So why aren't we getting them? Another issue is how quickly the quarterback will throw the ball. So if you play as a wide receiver, the quarterback will throw the ball as soon as he gets it out of the snap. And it's really annoying, and it happens a lot, and I don't know why. I understand that sometimes quarterbacks have to do that, but you get these long, if you play as a wide receiver, you're going to get these long developing routes, and you want to run the route.
Yeah. But
the quarterback gets the ball and throws it before you can complete the route. So it's like, well, this isn't fun. So playing as a wide receiver isn't all that super fun either. Playing as a running back is fun because you're involved with the game so much. And that's one where using that third-person camera angle is actually pretty awesome.
Beneficial. Yeah.
Because now with that third-person camera angle, it just looks a lot cooler because you're down really close to the ground, you're running fast, you're seeing the holes develop. The blocking, and this may have been something that was established in Madden. In old football games, because of the technology and stuff, the running plays were always just a complete mess because, you just had a bunch of like NPCs running into each other, and, it was never super clean. And this one, you can really, like, as a running back, let's say a guard pulls. A pulling guard means a guard, instead of blocking forward, he drops, runs to the side, and maybe blocks an outside linebacker or the cornerback or something like that.
Right.
So a guard will pull, and you can follow that guard really closely, and the controls are precise enough that the moment he blocks, and whether you have to go inside or outside, you can cut to the appropriate hole and make a break for it. So there's like, when a running play develops, there's enough precision in how the NPCs block each other and stuff that you can find gaps in the line and exploit those gaps, and it works all really well. So that's nice. But yeah, so I'm having a lot of fun with it, but I don't know, I wish there was more. College football does not have sort of the same corporate stink that the NFL has. So it's like, mascot mashup was a really fun mode,
right?
Where you just played as the mascots from the older ones. They had mini games where you would like punt the balls, and so it was silly stuff, but that's part of what makes college football so great. And yeah, so I don't know. I'm excited to play more, and I've had a lot of fun with it, but I'm afraid that it's just going to be another copy paste. And they hope that they make some money off of Ultimate Team, which is super disappointing. Another thing that college football has is a super long history, just like the NFL. And I don't know how they would make money. This would be difficult, but like, you could go back. I would love to play as the 2000 Miami Hurricanes or whatever. There was a Miami Hurricane team that had like, it was like Terrell Suggs and I don't know, like 50 other Hall of Famers on it. This was one of the greatest college football teams of all time. I think Ray Lewis was on it. Did Ray Lewis go to Miami? I think so. I don't remember. But there was like 4 other guys, all of them in the Hall of Fame now. It was ridiculous. So yeah, kind of like to play as those older teams. But the problem is with name, image, and likeness now, I don't know how that would work. I don't know if Ultimate Team, if you could play as older players and how that money works. If those people just get paid for their name, image, likeness, I don't know. Because in football, in baseball games, you can play as, like, one of the big things about the new
show games.
The new show is you get to play as players from the Negro Leagues, right? Which is awesome, I think.
Yeah.
But it's like, do those guys get paid for that? Do their families get paid?
Yeah,
I don't know. I've been curious about that. So it's like if you played as, Ernie Banks was the first. I think he was the first African American to win the Heisman or be considered for the Heisman at Syracuse. Like if you had something like that from history, that'd be awesome.
I think the last time they ever did that was Barry Sanders edition of Madden. I think that was like.
Yeah, he was on the cover.
Yeah, damn it.
So I assume in that context, Barry Sanders was paid.
Yeah,
because he's still a celebrity. He's still around. But when you're playing as people from like the 60s, 50s, 40s, way back in the day, or you're playing as teams of people, I wonder, could you pay that? How would that work? I don't know. That's something about the show we should look up because I'm curious about that.
Ken Griffey was on the cover a couple years ago.
Yeah, and I'm sure he got paid.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, okay. I'm sorry. I went on. So that's a lot about college football 25.
Tyler got his chance to turn this podcast into a sports podcast again.
But I'm really excited. But that's the thing that's what makes college football so much fun is because of the diversity, because of all the different smaller schools, there's all kinds of little traditions and little songs and little things that you don't know about until you play at one of these stadiums. And it's like, oh, that's neat. Oh, that's fun because all these schools have their own traditions, have their own chants. Eastern Michigan, they're called the Chippewas. Their chant is "Fire Up Chips," which is awesome. And I did not know that. And when you play in their stadium, now again, Eastern Michigan, all due respect, for the most part, Central Michigan is an obscure team that nobody knows about, right? Nobody cares. They're never going to win the national championship game. But even if you play as Central Michigan, when you're at your home stadium and it's a big game and you're doing really well, the crowd chants, "Fire up chips, fire up chips." And it's like,
that's cool.
Isn't that awesome? That's freaking sick, right? So yeah, you can have the big, of course, if you play at Oklahoma, you'll hear Boomer Sooner, but yeah, Oklahoma is like a big brand. You get some of these smaller brands. Could you imagine being a 19-year-old freshman at Central Michigan and you play as your team and you hear "Fire Up Chips" in the video game? Like, that's so awesome, right? To have all these little tiny traditions and chants and things like that captured in the video game. So yeah, that's nice. Anyway, did you find anything?
Yeah, it was MLB 17. That was like the Ken Griffey Jr. edition with him on the cover, and like the steelbook was his jersey and stuff like that. So
okay,
that was it. Also, I am very happy that very happy and sad that college football came out because NCAA 14 has completely tanked in price.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
However, before it tanked in price, we never got a chance to recoup what we paid for the copies that haven't been bought.
No.
But that's okay.
What's it down to now?
Disc only $35.
Really?
Down from about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, it was like $180.
Did that come out for the Xbox One, PS4?
No. It was PS3. PS3 360. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because if it was 14, then it came out in 2013.
Oh, yeah.
Which those consoles, yeah.
Okay, so it was right at the end.
Because the consoles Xbox One and PS4 came out in 2013.
So 15 would have been.
So yeah, 15 would have been.
15 would have been on the.
So yes, literally 10 years to the day.
You know what would be
not
fun?
To the day, but
what would be fun is to go back through those missing years of college football games and then pick who would be the cover athlete. That would be fun to do. Cool. And it couldn't just the cop out would be all the Heisman winners. Screw that. Pick actual, interesting players from those years. Baker Mayfield would have to be on one of the covers. He was a quarterback at Oklahoma.
There's always covers that I assume are going to be expensive eventually because you have the Madden 09 cover. There's 3 different covers technically. There's Brett Favre and the Packers. But that was the year he got traded to the Jets. So you were able to download and print out a Jets version of that cover.
I
yes,
didn't know that.
I do see it every now and again. Someone print it out. But then there's also a because that was the year they did a collaboration with Susan Coleman, the Breast Cancer Foundation. So there's a pink ribbon cover, which is way more. The Xbox version of that game is $40-$50 because it's the last football game on that one. And then us getting the covers. Oh, and then the NBA 2K12 covers. Because 2K11 was when Michael Jordan was on the cover.
Yeah, is this the Kyrie Irving one?
No, this is NBA 2K12 had Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, and Larry Bird on the cover.
Oh, okay.
And they were there. And I see Jordan all the time, almost never see Bird, almost never see Johnson. And when I do, I'm always like, is this expensive yet? Like, what's going on? Because, I just don't see them. It's not really, like a couple bucks more maybe, but it hasn't. But sports games are largely ignored, of course, because they're the best-selling games like every year.
Yeah,
so there's so many out there, but
yeah, there was, because Kyrie Irving was on the cover of one of the NBA games, but it was it did the cover have, because he went from the Cavs to the Nets? I don't remember what happened. He went from one team to another. And I don't remember if it was before the cover was printed or if it was after.
I think I remember that.
Like after all the promotional images had been released.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they had to change the cover image.
2K18, I think.
Yeah.
He was on the Celtics?
Was he on the Celtics then? He's been on a few different teams now, so I don't remember.
I'm sorry, Celtics.
I just remember he started his career with the Cavs, and then he's played on the Nets.
Yeah.
He's played on the Mavs. He's played on like 100 different teams now, so I don't remember. Anyway, okay. Are we
Let's do it.
ready to move on? Okay. As soon as I find here we go. Thanks for listening. If you like our content, please consider subscribing or leaving a like and comment. You can find us at patreon.com/thegamingdiscourse. And our tiers are $2, $4, $7, and $10 and include getting your name in the video credits, early access, and access to our Discord server. So Connor, you said there was which college football team? What?
You were thinking of the 2001 Hurricanes because they had like Vince Wilfork, Ed Reed, Sean Taylor, Frank Gore.
Yeah, that's the one. And Frank Gore, one of my favorite tweets of all time. I don't know if you guys knew. Frank Gore, I think, probably be a Hall of Fame running back. He played in the league for like 20 years, almost never injured somehow. The most iron of Iron Men. And maybe my most favorite tweet of all time is one of those like random tweets about like scientists say the first person to live to 150 has been born, and someone quote tweeted with just it's Frank Gore. That's perfect. Okay, enough about sports. AI is already taking jobs in the games industry. This is a story by Wired's Brian Merchant about generative AI use in video games. Two specific examples: CoD used AI for concept art and for at least one, I'm not sure if you want to call it cosmetic. It looks like it's when you buy like a package of cosmetics and then you get the loading screen.
Yeah.
In CoD. Well, the loading screen is just an
AI mess.
An AI made version of like it's a samurai demon mask thing.
Yeah.
So the loading screen looks similar to the mask that is in the game, but it's not. It clearly looks like it was AI generated. Other companies, I think Riot is experimenting with their own thing. I want to say EA has experimented because some of these studios want to do in-house because they don't want to, probably through licensing or whatever, they don't want to work with like OpenAI or whatever, those other, AI companies. So it's like there are a handful of companies that are working on their own in-house systems. I want to say EA and Riot were the two that were mentioned in the story. I'm just going to read chunks of the story here because there's a bunch of different details, and then we can talk. And then if you guys have something to say, just interrupt me and that'll be fine. But yeah, reading straight from the story. Quote, job automation rarely happens evenly or cleanly. Historically, much of its impact is felt through desk killing, as more tasks are handed over to a machine or program, or attrition, as employees who are laid off, quit, or retire don't get replaced or hired back. Generative AI, by all indications, is no different. Managers at video game companies aren't necessarily using AI to determine entire departments, but many are using it to cut corners, ramp up productivity, and compensate for attrition after layoffs. In other words, Bosses are already using AI to replace and degrade jobs. The process just doesn't always look like what you might imagine. It's complex, based on opaque executive decisions, and the end game is murky. It's less Skynet and more of a Mass Effect, and it's happening right now. This is something I'm probably going to cite a couple times as we talk about this, but when you read a lot about generative AI and how to use it in game design, obviously I'm not a game designer, so it's outside looking in, but when I read, there's just somebody who wrote a blog on Game Developer that was like, here's ways to use AI in game development. And it's always really vague. It's like, hey, use generative AI, but not in a way that replaces jobs. Like, well, how? Well, just don't replace jobs. It's like, okay, well, can you give me specifics here? I don't know. A lot of the times that I read about it, it's all very vague, and I feel like that's a red flag, because it's like, I don't know. It's like people saying, have your cake and eat it too.
Right.
Well, how? I don't know. Just have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
Even though the natural flow of things is the incentive sets are not in place to allow people to have their cake and eat it too. So it's like, yeah, when these companies decide that outsourcing or that just using generative AI is going to be cheaper than hiring a couple artists or whatever, why wouldn't they just move to that? How do you convince an executive to, hey, figure out how to use this cost-cutting measure, but don't save on cost?
Right. And that's exactly the problem, because when you find out that thing you've created can do everything, it's like, well, why do I have all of you around here? Because I was going to make the examples of like, oh, well, like, let's say one of the artists, the storyboard artists or whatever, are drafting up something and they need like the character to be in a specific background. It's like, okay, use the AI to create me a background real quick. I'll draw the characters, but just make the background. But at what point does someone go, well, why don't you just make the character too? Well,
Yeah.
That seed has been planted. And then the other example, which I've already used several times, and Square Enix admitted they used it, but they used the generative AI to help with the lip syncing for the American version of the mouth movements for the American version of Final Fantasy Rebirth, which I thought was a really great idea because that cuts down on that time. But when is it going to get to the point where you just be like, well, we could just do the entire animation that way?
Yeah.
Because you keep feeding the machine, it keeps getting better and better.
Yeah.
Because already we're at the point artists online are finding it harder and harder to determine when something is AI or not, because it's learning so fast.
Yeah. And I think it's because I think I can spot like Indica. You know the game Indica with the nun?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Indica's title card was made with AI.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
And I knew as soon as I saw it. But I think what is difficult is, especially if maybe you're working or if you work in art and your eyes go across stuff a lot of the time, it's just the deluge of things. That's what makes it difficult. If you only saw 2 images a day, it may be easier to like, oh, this one, AI, this one, AI. Yeah. But when you look at a ton of stuff all the time, I think that's when it gets a little more difficult maybe. I don't know. Anyway, back to this quote. Generative AI can most capably produce 2D images that managers and cost-squeezed studios might consider good enough, a term AI-watching creative workers now use as shorthand for the kind of AI output that's not a threat to replacing great art, but is a threat to their livelihoods. Some clients care more about cost than quality, after all. Tasks like 3D animation and programming are, for now at least, much harder to automate in full. A recent report from the consulting firm CVL Economics, commissioned by entertainment industry trade groups, found the gaming industry already regulated tasks to generative AI more than its peers in TV, film, or music. According to its survey of 300 CEOs, executives, and managers, nearly 90% of video game companies had already implemented generative AI programs. Gaming, VCL found, relies heavily, more so than the other entertainment industries, on Gen AI to carry out tasks like generating storyboards, character designs, renders, and animations. In fact, by some estimates, Gen AI may contribute to more than half of game development half of the game development process in the next 5 to 10 years. This might be news to some games workers who are often unable to see the whole picture of what's going on at major games companies like Activision Blizzard, which consist of a winding supply chain of studios, developers, third-party contractors, and quality assurance QA testers. So yeah, I just wanted to read a couple chunks there. There's a lot more in the story. He talks with artists about what it's like, what the industry is going through right now. I would recommend reading the story. But yeah, so okay. So do you guys have any thoughts off the bat here before I?
Just stuff that we were already talking about in that mid break there. But it is tough to get a beat on where this is going to go. But on the outset, every single pathway looks like it's going to be a bad end for a lot of people, especially in the creative process. But even then, you do unfortunately run the risk of constantly putting out shovelware. Like, I mean, AAA versions of shovelware.
Yeah.
But there will be this very weird generation of for those who are exposed to that, like 8 to 15-year-olds, when they get to 25, 30, they may look back on those things and be like, yeah, that was great. And it's like, well, no, it wasn't great. It was bad for these reasons, but because you grew up with it at a certain time. And so from that point on, the quality of what consumers get will be skewed, or artistry will disappear. I mean, it won't, but for the mass market, it will.
Yeah. Connor, did you have anything you'd like to say?
No.
I think one thing you're hinting at, I think an interesting parallel is something like microtransactions.
Mm-hmm.
The state that we were in 15 years
downloads.
ago, it was different. And I don't think it's all necessary. I don't think the state of microtransactions and live service economies the way they are today is all born out of necessity.
Yeah.
I refuse to believe that. And I think it's like, for example, sports games. I think sports games could be a lot better than they are, but they're not. And one of the reasons that they're not is because they don't have to be. Because there's a massive casual audience out there. You already mentioned it, that people, how sports games are some of the best selling games every year.
Yeah.
That are just going to buy the new sports game, and that's fine. And those people are not dumb. They're not morons. They're not stupid. They're just normal people who casually play games, and they're not sickos that read the news all the time. So, and they shouldn't be expected to have to like inject into their lives figuring out, oh, what game should I all of a sudden change my entertainment habits because the way this industry operates. Because I think the industry could operate differently if it wanted to, and make things better as a result, but the incentive is not there. An incentive is to make as much money as possible in the shortest amount of time possible. And that's frustrating. And so like with generative AI, I think the biggest target for this kind of thing is casual audiences. It makes sense to me that you see it in Call of Duty because there is so much, I think, there is a lot of demand in the sense that people are buying microtransactions. I think if you asked all those people, hey, how about you get all this stuff for free instead of buying it, they would all say, oh, I'll get it for free. So the demand is synthetic in a sense. But I think that casual audiences are the audiences that are most vulnerable to this kind of thing because I don't know, maybe they're not online seeing generative AI images all the time. Maybe they don't understand the larger issues behind it when it comes to art and entertainment. Yeah. I don't know. So it's like there's such a massive deluge of microtransactions and season updates and all that bullshit that it's like how much and you get so many random things. Like this Call of Duty thing is a fucking loading screen, right? Yeah. It's a loading screen you unlock. So it's like, I don't know, think about all the little tiny things you unlock in games, nameplates, patches, what have you, everything that can be made by a 2D image that can be made by a generative AI. It's like all that stuff could just now be churned out as slop for microtransaction stores. And if it's not happening in mobile right now, I'd be surprised, because as bad as things are at like the console PC height of gaming, it is even worse at the mobile level, you would think.
Right.
Because there was never a period where it was like, let's make the best game possible. From the get-go, it was like, people have their phones, let's have them spending money on their phone from the moment they wake up. And that has become like the point of games on mobile phones, is not to make good games, but to figure out how to monetize your free-to-play game. And that has ruined, I think, any artistic chance at like making something worthwhile. That's not to say that there aren't worthwhile mobile games. There are. But
They're trying to be.
They're trying to be, and there have been over the course of the years.
But it is the ease of the absent-minded. I don't want to get too much into like how much the average person struggles in their daily lives. They have to think about work. They have to think about, what do I got to eat tonight? They got to think about your commute. You got to think about whatever. And then they get stuck with that one thing that they don't have to think about.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like, another, I was going to get into digital. We're talking about college football and how the new release of it absolutely tanked the price of NCAA 14, is because we have a new title in that series that a lot of people are waiting for. And there's a lot of games that people have been waiting for this year, but I have not been seeing them come into the stores. And I fear it's because people buy it digitally. They buy it digitally because it's easy, because they don't want to do it. It's the same reason a lot of people are using Uber Eats and they're using these things. It's because they don't have to do it. They don't have to think about it. They just do it. And so that is the unfortunate, like, Ouroboros that like appears and causes these issues, is just because it's easy.
Yeah, and and getting into that, is the ethics of that is like a huge political discussion that
is
beyond anything that I'm able to handle at this point.
No, yeah. That issue is a whole
when it comes to like the gig work economy and stuff like that.
But this is that consequence.
No, yeah, you're right. I had a thought because you mentioned it, but then I let my brain drift away. So, and it's not just and I want to make clear here that casual audiences may be the most vulnerable to this kind of thing, but there are also people that just don't care, and that worries me. In the Wired article, so people have spotted this months ahead. People spotted that different games were using generative AI months ago. Yeah. It hadn't made the news yet. So there's like a random Reddit post on a random Call of Duty subreddit that points out, hey, Activision Blizzard or Activision's using generative AI. And I was really disheartened. It's random people on Reddit, but the random people on Reddit were like, well, I don't care. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, get ready then, bro. Yeah. Get ready for the thing that you do to get absolutely fucking decimated to the point of non-existence. It's like, I don't know. And that bothers me more is the I don't care, hands in the air dude. Yeah.
Right? They don't care until it's on their doorstep.
Exactly. And it's like, it's the same thing with, I don't know, it's the same thing with like microtransactions. It's not a problem until it's the games that you like, right? It's not a problem until it disrupts the thing that there's no like, I don't know, maybe take a wider view of things, look at it from a higher angle, I guess. But that really bothers me, this attitude that it's like, it doesn't matter or who cares. I don't know, because that's just a really toxic, short-sighted, myopic way of looking at life in the universe and video games, I think. And it's not to say that everybody needs to be an expert on everything, but maybe have a little bit more thoughtfulness when approaching something like this. Although it was not surprising to find people like that on a competitive Call of Duty subreddit. That seemed right up. I don't know, the stereotype alley, I guess. I don't have a whole lot more to say about this article. Was really disheartening. It sucks to read about these artists, just their jobs in limbo, or how degrading it must feel to have to like work with generative AI, especially if you're somebody that is so talented at like art and drawing, and concept art isn't easy because you have to like think of, it's not just drawing a spaceship. You have to draw a spaceship in a tone that fits this creative vision that all these people are working on, right? So it's like if I said, I think look at the like Halo games are a good example, right? It's like draw me the Master Chief. Well, if you give me Halo 4 Master Chief and Halo 2 Master Chief, one of those is a bad Master Chief because the art direction doesn't fit what I think is a better aesthetic, right? So it's like, I don't know, concept artists have to figure out how a world is going to work. And then when you play a game and you're like, oh man, look at this art. When you play Elden Ring and you're like, oh man, look at that tree out in the distance. It's like, well, because 5 years ago, there was a bunch of underpaid artists who were coming up with like different ways of looking at things and different ways of seeing things and aesthetics. And it's like, or when you play a game like, I don't know, I'm still not over how cool like Deathloop looked, right?
Yeah.
And it's concept artists had to, here, let's make it, let's take architecture. Let's take inspiration from architecture, which means they had to research, which means they had to take their own knowledge from real world architecture and real art styles and work that into a game and figure out how to make it coherent, right?
Right.
That is so difficult. To have all that be put into, okay, now take all that skill and all that honing you've done with your craft, and I just want you to touch up this image that I printed out from a generative AI. It's like, oh, okay.
It must feel like the that example, you get $1 million, but the snail is following you and it'll kill you if it touches you. And it's just like you have to sit there and work and keep looking at this thing as it like slowly like gets towards you.
Yes, exactly.
It sucks. I can't imagine being in that position.
Yeah, and if we want to cut costs, hey, why don't we start at executive compensation? Let's start there.
And
then let's figure out how to make games cheaper to make. Let's make them shorter. Games don't need to be, we don't need to see the hairs in Aloy's face. That's what we say all the time. So let's go there. If the cost of games is so crazy that we just have to cut it, well, I don't know, how much is Large Vingafor? How much is he making a year? Cut it in half. He doesn't need it, So there you go. There's some cost-cutting measure. How much does Andrew Wilson make a year? If it's more than $1 million, he's getting overpaid because I can run EA. So it's like, you know what? Let's start there, and then we can figure out other cost-cutting measures. Richard. Oh, and then so that story broke, and then SAG-AFTRA actors went on strike.
Yes,
Richard.
So SAG-AFTRA actors are going on strike. We have that story, and
they did. I'm sorry.
They did. Sorry,
they have 26.
They have that story and the story that GTA 6 is one of the. I think there were a couple of games exempt, right?
There's a bunch of details. Yeah.
We'll read it right now. The strike began on July 26th. Games that were in production before September 2023 are exempt from the strike, though there are interim agreements companies can sign in order to work with SAG-AFTRA workers. Speaking with Aftermath's Nathan Grayson, SAG-AFTRA's chief contacts officer Ray Rodriguez said this on the exemption. Quote, "We're obviously not happy about that. The language was bargained into one of the legacy interactive media agreements before the merger of SAG and AFTRA. It's language that the merged union basically inherited that I think is insane, but it's there. We're hopeful that the performers, in solidarity with their fellow members and recognizing that showing solidarity is going to shorten the strike and help us gain critical protections, will exercise their discretion, even with respect to some of those non-struck titles. We do believe that there are certain titles that we can challenge," end quote. According to Grayson, the problem was protections that were given to voice actors but weren't given to physical performers. Again, reading from the quote from Rodriguez, he said, "Until a couple days ago, the employers were adamant that AI protections would only extend to voice, not to on-camera coverage. So anybody doing a stunt or creature performance, all those folks would be left unprotected under their employer's offer. At the 11th hour, when we were about to go on strike, they gave us new language that does make a reference to on-camera performers. The protections only extend to on-camera performers and to voice performers under their offer if the performer is identifiable in the output of the AI digital replica. But the truth is, in video games, it's not going to be identifiable, as you could be doing the stunts that form the movement for Spider-Man, but what the player is going to see is Spider-Man. So that requirement of identifiability really leaves movement performers out of the scope of the coverage, end quote.
Yeah, so I thought that was really, I don't know, if you're,
That
why
is
not
very
just give
weird.
him everything? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer. I'm not someone that works in this industry, but I was just like, why
That's so weird.
like why are you, why not just why not give the union that? What?
It's funny because it's like, I know it's an extreme, but it's like, yeah, Ray Park, he did the movements for Darth Maul. Yeah, but that's Darth Maul. That's not Ray Park. And it's like, that's stupid. Like,
Yeah,
get the fuck out of here.
Exactly.
It's such a dumb rule.
Yeah. So and yeah, I think the thing is, like, you can't, I don't know, you can't strike it. You can't, well, strike being a synonym here for make a deal. You couldn't make that deal and like leave this huge weakness in there where, yeah, like anybody, like there was just a game. What was it? Games happen all the time. I'm trying to think of a specific game, but there was just recently a game where, Alan Wake, where the voice and the character are like different or whatever. Oh, that wouldn't count here because he's identifiable. But
Right.
and
Sam Lake and
yeah.
what's
But imagine if the actor that played Alan Wake didn't look like himself in the game, right? Mm-hmm. And the movements were all him, but Matthew, Alan Wake's voice, Matt.
Vika? Or,
It doesn't matter.
Yes.
The English voice, right?
Matthew Porrera.
Yeah, he does the voice.
Yeah.
Right? So if we couldn't identify the Swedish act, I think he may be Swedish actor, then that guy like wouldn't get protected under.
Yeah.
And obviously we can't, but I'm sure we could find examples like Spider-Man where it's like you have stunt performers. Abby, the actress that played Abby, right?
Right.
It was like her performer was like an actual like power lifter, and she looked like she had the same like body type as Abby.
But Laura Bailey did the
voice, and the character Abby didn't really like the facial structure. It looked like they made almost like an original face. It didn't really look like the girl herself. So it's like, would that girl not be protected? Like, how would that? So anyway, it's just weird that the other side just wouldn't allow them to have that, at least according to SAG-AFTRA.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just a strange hill to like say no on and lead to a strike. And I'm glad the actors are striking because like if you care about games and you care about all these amazing creatives that make these games, they need the protections because the people on the other side are a bunch of cutthroats. Like, I don't know. On the other side is Bobby Kotick, Andrew Wilson, and they're just waiting to slash to cut costs,
chomping at the bits,
and load up on live service mechanics and live service economies. And like if it were up to the Bobby Koticks of the world, every game would just be Candy Crush. We wouldn't have Alan Wake 2. We wouldn't have Baldur's Gate 3. Because as much money as Baldur's Gate 3 is going to make, it is not going to make as much money as Candy Crush will. So in Bobby Kotick's mind, why have Baldur's Gate 3, right? Every game should just be Candy Crush. And we can have that future, or we can have a future where our creatives are protected and we have people that want to make actually artistically fulfilling stuff. And in order for them to do that, they have to be protected and they have to go on strike to get the sort of protections that they deserve. I also wanted to say this, though, because it's brought up a lot that how bad a lot of AI art can be. It's not art, AI generated images, I guess.
right.
And a lot of it is kind of bad. You'll notice, things that are wrong or off or whatever. But I think the more important thing is just protecting jobs in this instance. You obviously don't want bad work in games. You don't want bad, I'm trying not to say art. You don't want bad art in games that is made by a generative AI system, right? Sure, because it's bad. But I think the more important thing is you want people to have jobs, because people should have jobs and they should be able to use these skills, these creative skills, to make things. And that, in my mind, is the more important thing. Do we have any other thoughts on this?
No, I don't. I do not.
Okay. Yeah, so we don't have tidbits.
Unfortunately. And then next week we'll have NPDs. We didn't get to do May's, but we will have June's next week.
Okay. Is there anything else we wanted to talk about? Oh, we're at 119. Never mind. I did not know we.
Oh, yeah, no.
I
yeah,
went
we
on
went
for
on.
college football a long time. I'm sorry. Follow us. Patreon.com/gaming discourse. YouTube.com/gaming discourse. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.